And we should be live. Welcome, nerds, to another live stream repair. We've got 4 HomePods that showed up today for repairs, or technically speaking, more like 3.5. We've got Steven's HomePod here with symptoms of DC offset. And then we've got Tim's HomePod with death farts, which is basically just DC offset, but more severe. And then we've got Brandon's that has no power. And then we will wrap up with Mark's that has no bass, but they sent in just the amplifier boards. So like 3.5 HomePods really. So let's go ahead and open up Steven's HomePod here and get started for the day. And we don't want to forget a drink. Okay. First things first, as we do with all of these things before we actually do any repairs, we want to check our symptoms first. There's a few reasons we like to check for symptoms first. First and foremost, we want to make sure that we understand and that we know what we're trying to fix here. If somebody thinks that blinking volume buttons means that it doesn't power on and they tell me it doesn't power on, then I'm going to go in here and tear it apart without actually checking it and waste all my time on a software issue, right? Also, we like to check and make sure with a known good power cable that it's not that the power cable causing any issues. And lastly, we want to check for power draw. So depending on, well, in this case, this one's powering on fine, but for ones without power, you can usually guess what's wrong based on how much power it's drawing. So that doesn't really matter for this one here since it powers on fine, but we are going to go ahead and power it on and listen for how loud of a pop we've got when it first turns on, and then again when we unplug it from power. Now, a popping sound by itself as it goes in and out of standby mode is totally normal and expected behavior. It's not necessarily a sign that anything is failing or going out of spec or on its way towards death and destruction. It's typically only when you've actually got other bass issues like death farts and crackling and frequent crackling and whatnot, where that would warrant like actually sending your pod in for a repair here. That's what I tell folks. If all you've got's the popping and no other issues, don't worry about it. But if you've got other issues, then that is a sign that your offset is too far out of spec because those filtering capacitors aren't doing their job anymore. So let's go ahead and listen. So I didn't actually hear any pop that time. And it's pretty quiet when we unplug it too. So we're going to go ahead and tear this one apart and replace the filtering capacitors in here anyways, just for good measure. But in general, I don't repair these if all they do is pop. Because like I said, it's expected behavior at this point. Even after repairs with all fresh new parts, it can still pop going in and out of standby mode. There's just some sort of delay in those caps, removing that unwanted DC offset. Now, yeah, let's just jump right into this. screwdriver time. Let's get the display out. There we go. Now our frame. Time for the pry. Oh, this one's gonna be a fucking asshole, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. This one's gonna suck. So we're gonna have to get dirty with the prying. There we go. This is how we're gonna start today, huh? Oh, you fucking asshole. I hate you, Apple. Why do you have to do this? don't understand why some of those are so difficult to open up. But we got them. Can't stop us. I'll cut the damn thing open and put up the guts into another shell if I have to get into it. I've got plenty of shells to replace, if that were the case. Oh, what's that smell? Subwoofers looks alright. Alright. We have made it to the star of the show. That would be our amplifier. So before we jump into any repairs here, we're just going to do a quick once over. And we're actually going to power this up and give it a quick listen. Give it a quick test and see how much DC offset this amp currently has. We're going to see if it's out of spec or not. Okay, baseline tests. What have we got? What do we got? Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, we've got 300 millivolts and it looks like it's growing. So yeah, that is certainly enough to be causing damage and issues long term there. So let's get those filtering capacitors replaced. And then we're going to replace that Schottky barrier diode that loves to fail and cause no power issues. We replace that diode on every HomePod that comes in for repair just because of how often it fails and the uncertainty as to why it fails. And it's cheap and quick enough for us to do that for every pod, so we replace that diode every time. But first, let's correct the DC offset here. Let's go ahead and switch to our up close camera, see if it causes our stream to crap out or not. It's been real picky with me recently. Seems to be playing all right. Looks wonderful. So we're gonna get our heat on and let's pull those old caps off. Oh well, I'm honored to have caused the interruption. How's the snow been treating you? That looks kind of funny, don't you think? There's like a red tint on this resistor here and this one here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I've never seen that before. Those kind of went everywhere, but that's okay. We will persevere. Everything else stayed on the board though. So let's go ahead and re-tin those pads. We're going to take our Chip Quick NC191 flux and just cover those pads with some flux, get them nice and wet and ready for some fresh new solder. And speaking of which, for that I like to use my NC191 LT15 solder paste. I'm sure you can get this stuff in a regular stick, but this is just what I've got. But it's low melt solder, so when we put our new capacitors on, we shouldn't have to use as much heat, and thus, in theory, it should prolong their expected lifespan, or at least their useful lifespan. Fun fact, if you didn't know, MLCC capacitors, much like the ones that Apple used here, and these ones right over here, basically just any of these MLCC capacitors, by design, or not by design, sorry, it's just an inherent design property of them, I should say. They naturally lose their effectiveness at filtering DC voltage over time, which is why it seems pretty inevitable that this is going to be necessary for most HomePods out there. I actually want to get a recording of this when I do it. So where's my phone? Make sure our cameras are clean. Wow, this does not take great up close. That'll do. Alright, do the trick for the camera. Come on, I've been training you all day. Well, that didn't work as well as I wanted to, but that's okay. We're just trying to show off. But that looks fantastic. Look at those joints, brother. Okay, we're gonna flip this around and replace that power diode now. Like I mentioned earlier, this doesn't have anything to do with the issue at hand per se, but due to the uncertainty as to why these are failing, we replace this diode every time for every HomePod. So we're going to go ahead and pull that old one off and put a new one on there now. It also has a date code of 1746K on there, so it is within our usual suspect range of these diodes that tend to fail. But even if it had a completely different date code, we would still replace it. Trying to catch up with the chat now. Hey Steven, glad you could make it. Welcome back, Relaxing TV. I think I saw your reply to my email, but as always, I'm behind on my emails, so I'll get back to you guys when I can. You're also welcome to just pop the question in the chat here too, if it was just a quick and easy question you had. I forgot to turn my heat back up, and I'm sitting here wondering why this diode isn't going anywhere. Okay. Stick that into our used pile. Grab a new one. Got a bunch of hair here. Get out of here. Notice I did not clean my tip off because I want a little bit of that low melt in there still. It'll make it a little easier for us to put this on here. But I don't want it completely low melt because in the chance this diode runs rather hot, we don't want its solder joints melting under normal operating temperature there. but a little salami is okay as a snack. Alright, looks like we got a little ball in there to the right of the diode, so let's try to get that out of there. Got him. Got him! Okay. Is that cool enough? That's still pretty hot. That's still pretty warm. So we're going to cool this board off real fast in front of the fan here. We don't want that heat soaked into the capacitors affecting their ability to do their job. That's another strange property of MLCC capacitors. Not only does age over time reduce their effectiveness at filtering DC offset, but also heat. The hotter they are, the less effective they are as well. You bought a Project HomePod, it doesn't turn on. Personally, if I'm buying a HomePod that's a broken HomePod and I don't have any idea what's wrong with it, I would prefer it to be a no power issue, because no power issues are one of the easiest issues to repair for a few reasons. First of all, the no power issue almost always is this same diode shorting out. The same diode that you just saw us replace here as a preventative measure. That's what typically shorts out and causes no power. I'd say at least 9 out of 10 no power pods that come in here, it's that diode. If it's not that diode, pretty much every no power issue we've come across has been a shorted component. And shorted components are usually really easy to find, especially if you've got the right tools for it, like a thermal camera, or if you're persistent enough, you can go old school with a flex pen, or just smearing flex all over the board, or rubbing alcohol, whatever suits your fancy. But yeah, I would take a HomePod with no power issues over any other issue any day. Okay, so we've got new filtering capacitors, which should remove our excess DC offset, and we've got a new power diode, which should prevent their power, or prevent them from having power issues. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Yep, we expected it to turn on. We didn't have any issues before. But what we want to see here is the multimeter tell us that we've got at most no more than 50 millivolts of offset. Before our repairs, we were seeing 300 millivolts and growing. Oh, that's right, relaxing. I remember reading your email now. You think that the step-down converter is actually what's shorted out now, which is a perfectly reasonable thought there. I have come across, it's pretty rare, but it's happened, yes. I've had a few of these no power boards also need that new step-down converter right next to it. But it's pretty rare. I'd only say like 3 or 4 times we've needed to replace that step-down converter. But also, I don't know if you've seen them yet, but iFixit's HomePod teardown guide has some really high resolution images of the amplifier board. So I would compare the diode area with a reference image from them and make sure that you don't have anything else missing or misplaced as well. But okay, how much offset do we have on here now? Look at that. We are falling. We're falling. We're falling. We're probably going to settle at like 0 millivolts of offset here after another few seconds. After another few minutes, I should say, really. But that is a spectacular result. That is what I want to see. Anything below 50 millivolts is good. So let's take that apart, get this pod put back together, and we'll move on to the next repair. The step-down converter is readily available. The specific part number that they used is no longer in service. It's discontinued, but there's like the TPS 54560-B or something like that. If you Google the original part number, you'll get taken to TI's website where you can find the active part number. But it's a drop-in replacement. It works just as fine. Ooh, I just came up with a good poll for the chat. It's probably not... Well, actually, no, that would make a better community poll because I'm curious to see how many people would prefer to purchase parts directly through me instead of finding them through DigiKey or Mouser. And I don't mean like HomePod parts per se, because I can't, to be brutally honest, I can't sell parts to people because then that takes away from the stock that I have available to offer repairs. I basically have to choose, do I sell parts or do I sell repairs? And I'm choosing to do the repairs. But I'm not going to be selling HomePod parts. I'll be selling the parts that you would typically need to fix your own. So like the specific capacitors and diodes that we use, the step-down converter, other common components that blow up or people lose. I'm curious to see if there's any interest in that. Maybe some tools too. But I don't know. I think there's enough people selling tools out there. And I don't know if I want to spend all that time managing like products too. I really like focusing on repairs. $54560DDER. Not sure I've heard of that one. Well, it looks like it should work. Let's see here. $60 volt 5 amp, 60 volt 5 amp. Yeah, it looks like it should work. Yeah. Since you're going to be replacing the step-down converter anyways, I would go ahead and take it off and see if your short goes away as well. Just to confirm. And for posterity here, we'll go ahead and double check for you here which pads should go where. So I believe the big pin on the bottom, okay, yep, so the big pin on the bottom should not be directly to ground. The pins on the top of the diode should connect to the ground. Both of the little pins on the top should connect to ground, and then the big pin does not. Oh, the short goes away. That's great. That's awesome. That's good news. So it sounds like you've got it all figured out and ready to fix it. I updated my HomePod to 13.2.1, and after that it stopped responding to my commands. Jake, so does the HomePod even show any lights or anything on the top, like when you tap on it or when you unplug it from power and then plug it back in? Or is it just not, it physically appears to power on fine, but it's just not logically connecting to your HomeKit setup? Okay, so you see lights on top. Does it ever make any noise? Like, does it complain about an internet connection, or can you just get absolutely no sound out of it? No noises. When you say you see the light on the top, like loading, is it always like that? Is it always like showing the spinning light, no matter how long you wait? What does it do after you've left it plugged into power for a few minutes? When you tap the top, does it show the Siri animation, or does it still show a spinning white boot animation after you've left it sit for a few minutes? I'm basically trying to surmise whether you've got boot loops, whether it's just constantly restarting itself, or if you've got sound issues. Okay. What's up, HTPC? Okay, Jake, it may be easier if you like record a video of what happens when you tap the top of it and email it to me. I'm also curious, have you tried a hard factory reset yet? Like unplug it from power, wait 10 seconds, plug it into power, tap and hold the top until it turns red and beeps 3 times. I'm curious if that works for you. I'm curious if it produces any sound when it factory resets or not. That's gonna be the differentiating factor there. What do you want me to measure? How? Do you want, what exactly do you want measured? I don't have a whole bunch of time here, but I can do something real quick. Okay, Jake, the problem is I don't really understand what you're saying. I don't, I don't understand what just trying to activate without sound and Siri animation means. I don't really understand what your problem is. Like, do you just have no sound whatsoever? Or is it just Siri commands that aren't working and it plays music fine? That's, or do you have like boot loop issues? So whenever you can, unless you've got an answer for me, whenever you can get a video of it, if you're not sure exactly what's going on, you can always email me. But I just cannot really understand what you're saying here. And relaxing TV, to be honest, I don't really understand what you're saying either, my brother. Which pins? Like, what exactly do you want measured? Do you want me to put the meter into DC voltage mode and measure it with it powered on? Do you want me to check resistance between the pads to ground? What do you want, brother? 'Cause you gotta help me out here. Help me help you. It doesn't help that I'm trying to fix HomePods right now and I can't pay attention to everything at once. Resistance from ground to pins. You got it. With the chip on or with the chip off? I presume you want with the chip off because I'm guessing that's how you've got yours right now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's just make sure we've got good check to ground. All right. So we're just gonna check all the pins here. So starting from the top left, we got nothing. And then the second pin goes straight to ground. Third pin seems to be climbing in resistance. Fourth pin, nothing. And then the second row of pins, the first one seems to be around 1600 ohms. The next one doesn't seem to be talking at all. Third one goes to ground. Fourth one seems to be climbing in resistance. All right. Let me know if you need any of those gone over again, but otherwise, I hope that helps. Hello, Martin. This first one took us a little longer than average, but that's okay. Actually, wait, we started at, so we've been going 15 minutes. Yeah, we're a little slow on this one. Oh, that's right. Getting into that basket was something else. Okay. Dooby 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 doob 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 dooby doob doob. Nah, bro, we're like 10, 15 minutes slow right now. That was like a 1 or 2 minute interruption. All right. Oh, silly me, we didn't even check it. Let's go ahead and do that now. Power. Give it a few good slaps, and there you go. Now, like I said, it's expected, even after repairs, to have a little bit of a pop every 10 or so minutes as it goes in or out of standby. But we were able to confirm that their popping was a sign, indeed, of early DC offset failures from those filtering caps. So it was a good thing that we had them send it in and we got those replaced.
I'm having trouble connecting.
But I'll be damned if there's any popping sound at all now, so that's pretty good. And volume buttons light up nice and even, so this one is ready to rock. And again, I don't hear any popping, so this one's really ready to rock. All right. We've got Tim's HomePod up next with Death Farts, which is pretty much a later onset failure of the same thing that we just repaired on Steven's pod here. Ooh, they're a songwriter. Okay. Here we go. So I'm expecting to hear a pretty severe pop on this one, unlike Steven's there, because if the DC offset has grown so bad that it's producing death farts, then I am expecting it to also cause a rather loud popping sound. So
I'm having trouble.
Boy. Yeah, that's a pop. So let's go ahead and tear this apart, get the amplifier out, and then we will power the amplifier up on the bench here, get it connected to our multimeter, and we're going to confirm that we have too much DC offset caused by our filtering capacitors going bad, which causes death farts. Once your filtering capacitors go so bad and they let so much DC voltage through, it's somewhere around 3 volts DC. Once it passes that, the amp detects that and it actually forces a restart and plays that death fart sound. So that's why you get that death fart behavior eventually, when those caps fail and allow too much DC voltage through. So we're going to confirm that's what's going on here, and then we'll do our repairs. Let's get this top off. As I always say, we're not using our tool here to pry the top off. What we're doing is we're going around cutting that adhesive off, and it's going to take a few times around before it'll just pop off on its own, but it will, just like that. If you keep the tool level with the top and you don't pry up on it or angle it at all, you'll avoid scratching and cracking this. So just keep that in mind if you're doing your own repairs there. Let's get the display out. These screws are sticking to my fingers. There we go. And then we're going to get our Jimmy tool again. Start a gap under the display so we can slide the plastic tool under there. Work that all around. And out comes the display. Don't forget to unlock that cable and disconnect it. Let's go ahead and fix the adhesive here. There we go. Let's move on to the frame. Yeah, I bought like 4 or 5 HomePod minis. They ended up being like 10 or 20 bucks a piece. And all 5 of them were described as won't power on. I plugged them into original Apple power bricks and they showed no response. So I plugged them into my USB-C MacBook and they showed right up in recovery mode. 4 out of 5 of them. All I had to do was click restore and they all worked. The 5th one is Mr. Brick here. And he unfortunately seems to have some sort of logic board issue or something going on because he does not show up on my Mac at all. He does not allow me to restore him. He does not allow me to reset him. All he does and all he has done for months on the stream is boot loop. He serves as a nice little status indicator for us that the stream is still going. Well, when you can see him, that is. But so far, 4 out of 5 success rate on the minis that won't power on. You just plug them in and restore the software. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Tim. The firmware for the minis aren't the same as the firmware for the OGs, so even if I were able to fix this mini that just keeps boot looping, it's not going to help us at all for any sort of repairs for the full-size pods. Oh, no, we were talking about minis. Yeah, and there's no news on any firmware stuff for the OGs, unfortunately. This just gets more ridiculous every time. Very annoying. It's cutting my hands up. Pretty good. I need to find someone that can make me a tool that just rips that basket off in one go. Alright, woofer check. Voice coil looks good. Feels nice and smooth. Smells nice and fresh. Like a happy subwoofer should smell like. The main event, the star of the show. Here we go. Death farts, right? Everything looks good on the board. No major issues. It's a little dusty around the amp chip. but that's nothing but a quick little won't fix. Alright, before we do any repairs to this, like I said at the beginning of the teardown for this pod, we're going to get this powered on the bench here, connected to our multimeter, and confirm our suspicions being too much DC offset. Yeah. All right. Talk to me. Yep, of course. Oh yeah, I had recently procured an iPhone 13 Pro Max off of eBay for $300. And normally I don't buy broken iPhones off eBay, but this one in particular had Find My iPhone turned off, a clean IMEI and all that. It just had a broken screen. So I paid $300 for it. And then I ordered the screen. I actually went through Apple, their self-service repair, and I bought a screen from them and replaced the screen. And got a nice little upgrade from my 12 Pro Max here. It's not a significant upgrade. The display upgrade is definitely noticeable, the higher refresh rate, but everything else feels pretty similar. Of course, I wouldn't go and lock myself into a 2-year upgrade contract for going from a 12 to a 13 Pro Max, but for the price that I paid for it, it is, in my opinion, a worthy upgrade. But I also really just wanted to experience the whole Apple self-repair program, really, so I got the screen. It took me like 20-30 minutes to replace the screen. It was really easy. And I tested everything seemed to work, so I reached out to their support so that way they could pair the new screen to the phone, so that way they could get rid of the, unknown part message for the display. And when I did that, it bricked my camera. Like, they fixed my screen, and then it gave me a non-genuine camera warning message, and it broke my 3x, my telephoto zoom, or my wide zoom. It broke one of my cameras. So they weren't able to fix it. I actually had to create a Genius Bar appointment, take the phone into the store, and then they had to ship the phone out to a repair depot, replace the camera, and then send it back to me. And the real kicker in my pants here is the fact that when I got it back, the frickin' camera's got smudges under it. Like right there, and like this debris and a fingerprint under the lens. I minorly annoyed, but at the end of the day, the camera works just fine. It doesn't seem to actually impact the performance. I was really trying to keep the phone in mint condition, and surprisingly, even with the smashed up screen, the rest of the phone was in mint condition. And then they go and they got to get their greasy paws all over my camera lens, like, oh, come on. If I can replace the display in under 30 minutes without a hitch, and why you gotta mess with my cameras, bro? What size? Both the 12 and the 13 are 128 gig phones, and no, you can't buy it off of me. I keep all my iPhones. I keep all of my phones. Period. If you couldn't guess, I'm a collector, so I've got my nice little stash of old iPhones, and it's also my old work phone. So I don't think they'd be very happy if I were to sell it off. But okay, well, I think we've dilly-dallied enough here. Let's check our DC offset. We've got a whopping 650 millivolts and quickly growing. So, pop. That's going to need to get fixed. To do that, to get rid of that DC voltage on our subwoofer there, we are going to replace our filtering capacitors. Same exact thing that we did with Steven's pod here. We're going to replace those filtering caps, and then we are going to replace that Schottky barrier diode. Again, the part that causes no power issues. Just a preventative measure for this pod in particular, but one that we do for all of them nonetheless. How did you check the iCloud status? How did I check the iCloud status? I think I just Googled find my iPhone checker, like some status checker, and it was I checked from a few different of the free like options that you can find on Google. But I found a few that gave you like your IMEI or like your ESN status, whether it was blacklisted or not, whether the phone was still on a financed plan or not, and whether the iCloud or Find My iPhone is turned on or not. And all those came back clean. So yeah, just search on Google like iCloud lock status checker. Unfortunately, Apple used to have a tool that let you plug in a phone's serial or IMEI and check whether it was locked or not. But now they no longer have that, I believe. I think they took it away. Who knows why? I don't know why. So don't ask. Come on off, little caps. Yep, you gotta check on a Mac and pretty much everything now. Even Android phones have their own similar thing called FRP, which is factory reset protection, where you have to enter the original owner's Google account information to complete setting it up, even if you factory reset it. It's relatively easy to bypass compared to the iCloud Find My iPhone lock on Apple devices, which is effectively impossible to bypass for any normal consumer. Yeah, gone are the days of a lot of tinkering, man. Sucks. It's what got me into computers. Computer. Give me those sweet blobs. There we go. Okay, we're gonna try our trick again here, because I have faith that we can do it first try. We've done it before. We can do it again. Well, that just looks spanktacular. Incredible. Flawless. Let's replace that diode, and then we will give this a test. I'm actually going to get the new diode ready beforehand. We'll see how much quicker this makes it for us. Oh, if you were curious, this diode has a date code of 1736K, so outside of our usual range of suspect diodes, but we're going to replace it anyways. Old one gone. New one on. That was quick and easy. I like it. Let's cool this board off and we'll give it a test. Okay. Power supply. Done. Ribbon cable for the logic board. Locked in. Power connector, subwoofer, multimeter check, we're connected, and logic board with display. Let's see what we've got. All right, we're sitting at around 4 to 5 millivolts of offset now. That is an excellent result and far improved from the 600 millivolts and growing that they previously had. So with confidence, we can say that we've gotten rid of those death farts. Let's get this put back together. now would be a great time, if you enjoy this kind of content, to leave a like on this video. If you don't, I'm going to sneak into your house in the middle of the night, and I'm going to swap out one of your HomePods with a HomePod mini. So it would behoove you to leave a like. Do it while it's free. And if you think you can just stop watching and leave without liking to avoid it, you are sorely mistaken. I've already done that. Where is it? Here it is. I've just got wires going directly into each of the tweeters. They're all wired in parallel, and they connect to the internal power connector, so that way I can use this with an OEM power cable and just connect an analog speaker signal to it and use it that way. I gotta figure out how to put in the right value of capacitors and such for crossover filters, because as of right now it's got an incredibly high resistance, and it does not play very loud without blowing my amp. You could probably fit some like off-the-shelf AliExpress Bluetooth amplifier in place of the smart guts that the HomePod currently has and give it Bluetooth too. But why would you downgrade the HomePod just to do that? If your HomePod's broken, then yeah, I could see that being useful. I don't know. Maybe as far as like room correction and like audio equalization right off the bat, yeah, sure. But if you can tune it right yourself, right? Because at that point it's just an analog speaker. It's going to play whatever you give it directly, one-to-one. You could make it, in theory, sound just as good. With a little bit of work. I would be thoroughly surprised if they had any sort of analog input for the next HomePod. I'm not saying it's the right move, but I'm saying it would be a surprising move for them to do it. Oh, I see what you're saying. I imagine they would have to release a new version of AirPlay to do that. All right, let's see what we've got. Okay, what do we got?
I'm having trouble connecting.
Very good.
I'm having
and very good. Beautiful. Everything checks out for Tim's HomePod. Let's put that away. And we will bust out our third and final repair, or not final, I take that back. We've got Brandon's HomePod with no power, and then we've got Mark's board only. Okay, let's cut the tape. Release the beast. No power. So let's go ahead and check that ourselves here. We've got it plugged in. We've got no response. And we've actually got 1 watt of power draw. So we might have a slightly rarer power failure on here than we usually see on the channel. Let's go ahead and crack it apart and find out what's going on here. Why is it not powering on? Based on the fact that it was only drawing 1 watt versus the usual 4 to 6 or 7 watts that we see with that shorted diode, we've probably got actually a short on the logic board. So once we get this logic board out, before we take it apart any further, we're going to try a different logic board that we know works in here. See if our hunch is correct here. Of course that came off like a total bastard. That's okay, we'll just stick all that back down. And that'll do. Let's get the frame out so we can swap logic boards. Alright, here is our good logic board with a display. Let's go ahead and connect that, lock it in, and I'm betting you this is going to power on. No, I am just a big fat stinking liar. So I wonder if we've actually got no power draw at all, because my kilowatt meter, even with nothing plugged into it, sometimes says it's pulling 1 watt. So I wonder if we've got no power draw at all, and we've got a blown power supply fuse. Let's continue the tear down. This one's coming apart really easy. If only they all did. like a dream. Woofer check. Looks good. Feels nice and smooth. Smells like nothing. Like a happy subwoofer. Okay, we've got all the parts out. I suppose let's go ahead and double check that our fuse isn't blown, or not our fuse, lol, that our diode is still good here. It's got a date code of 1742K on it, so I expect it to be good. Also based on the lower than normal power draw that we see for this kind of failure, this should still be fine. Yep. So our diode is still good. Here's our power supply. Let's go ahead and check our fuse. Make sure that our fuse is still good. And if it's good, it should have continuity. If it's bad, the fuse will be blown open, which means it won't have continuity. And there you have it. We've got a fuse that's blown wide open. Funny you mentioned that. Yeah, the fuse is big. But we've got no continuity on that fuse. And just to show you guys, here is another known good power supply. If we check the same fuse on this one, it's got continuity. So the purpose of the fuse is to basically blow open and prevent power from flowing if there's a power surge, if it exceeds the rating of the fuse. So you want your fuse to have continuity through itself if it's still good, and yeah, that is a bad fuse. So we're not actually going to replace that fuse here today. I've got so many of these power supplies sitting around ready to be used that we're actually just going to go ahead and swap their power supply out for a different one. Before we do that, I want to go ahead and mark, put some sort of marking on this one so we know that it needs work on it. F. F. We're going to put a big fat F on there. And another one back here. F. And then we're going to stick that into our fix it later pile. We're going to grab a fresh power supply off the bench, and we're gonna see if this power's on now. Okay, here we go. Yep, so it was definitely their power supply that was the problem there. We may as well wait for this to finish booting up so we can check it for any DC offset. If we don't see any DC offset, then we're going to go ahead and replace the power diode on the back of the board there, just for good measure. If we do see any DC offset, then we'll replace the filtering capacitors as well. But let's see what we've got here. Awesome. I can live with that. We've got about 7 millivolts of offset. Seems to be falling a little bit. So that is a perfectly acceptable test result. So let's go ahead and replace the power diode. That's the only thing that we'll need to worry about here. And we'll get this put back together. Okay, we don't need to worry about testing this board. We already checked it for offset. We know what power's on. We just went ahead and replaced that diode for preventative maintenance. We don't want that old one shorting out eventually and this thing coming back to us a few months later. So let's get this put back together, and we'll be just about done. We've got one more board after this with no bass issues. I'm so sick of that multimeter. Ooh boy. Alright, let's see what we've got. Smack it around a few times. Show them who's boss. We got power. Okay. Do we got sound?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Do we've got volume lights? Everything checks out. Awesome. Brandon's HomePod all fixed up and ready to go. Which brings us to our final repair for the day from Mark with no base and a bit of damage during their repair attempt here. So let's take a look. They broke off the connector for the ribbon cable on the amplifier. So we should be able to put that back on there. But more importantly, here's the amp that has no bass. So hopefully this is an easy one for us to figure out here. Looks like they broke a little bit of the power supply connector there too, but all the pins are still there, so that should still work fine. Date code on their diode of 1742K, so outside of the usual range, but oh boy, holy moly. I can't recall if they told us this in an email or not, but the bass, the amp IC, the amp chip for the bass has a gnarly hole in it right there. Wow. Wow. You guys can see that, right? Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to replace this chip. I don't generally have great luck replacing this chip. Normally, I just replace the amplifier entirely for people. But we're gonna see if we can't. Do I really want to try this? Yeah, we're gonna try to replace this chip. It's not gonna work. I'm gonna fuck it up, and I'm gonna need to replace the amplifier board. But as far as Mark's concerned, it's going to be the same cost whether we can successfully replace this chip or if we have to replace the whole board for them. But let's go ahead and try to replace this chip. I'm going to preemptively take the smoke alarm out of my ceiling because I know it's going to bitch. Alright, here we go. Yeah, the chip needs to breathe. It's a little intake hole. Oh, and actually we're going to preheat the other side of the board here for a few seconds. Since there's that massive cooling pad on the other side of this chip, it's going to soak up a lot of heat. Come on. Give it up. Give it up. This chip is taking it. Come on. It could also be fused to the board too. Whatever blew that chip may have blown the traces underneath it. Caused a fair bit of damage. Man, that is not coming up. There we go. Oh boy. Oh no. Oh dear. Is that as damaged as I think it is there? That pad right here. I can't tell if that's... because that's right under where that burn mark was on the chip. Let's clean that off and see what's going on. Oh man. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that whole pad there is roasted. Okay, well that actually cleaned up really well. This might be repairable. Let's see here, I've got... got a new amp chip here. This is the 4312M to replace the 980431. Okay, here's the tough part. Getting this new chip on here. This is what I suck at. Because I cannot line it up for shit. But who says we can't try? We're going to try to center that as best as we can. Hopefully it'll center itself when the solder melts. Alright, here goes nothing. Oh, I moved it. There we go. Okay. Like I said, this is probably not going to work. Even if we were to successfully replace that chip, who knows what else could have been damaged as a result of whatever caused that thing to blow out. But, it doesn't hurt us to try. If it saves me from having to replace an amp board, then let's give it a shot. Before we're able to test this, however, we're going to need to fix their connector here. So here is our connector, and we are missing pretty much all the pins on the other side. So we're going to need to put those back into there before we can put this back onto the board. Let's see if we've even got all of them here. I've got a few extra if we need them. But we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pins, and we've only got 5 here. Oh, looks like there's a 6th one in here that we can grab. There's number 6. I just found a number 7 hanging out on our bench here. And let's see where I put the rest of them. Yes. So we need ones that look like that. Is that the same? No, it is not. Is this one the same? Yes, it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We need 2 more. Here's 1. There's another. I think we just need 1 more, yeah? Oh, that one's gone forever. Flew somewhere off into the room. Okay. Let's put these back in now. They should go in like so. You bastard. Come on, you bastard. Get in there. There we go. Yes. I think we've just got 1, 2, 3 more. No! Get back in there. Okay. I think we've got all the pins reinstalled on this connector here. Yes, it's looking good. So, let's go ahead and get this connector put back onto the board here. That's where it should go. And we're just going to have this board held up for us so that we can hit it with the heat gun from underneath. There we go. We're going to put some low melt solder on the pads for the board and the connector, so that way we don't have to wait forever for this to melt, quite possibly damaging the connector. We'll just use low melt solder. Okay. So we're gonna stick this on here, line it up as best as we can. Or better yet, maybe we will just get that solder melted first, and then we'll put the board on, or the connector on there. Okay. No, that scared me. That just came right off. Let's try that again. All right. I think that is solid on there. We gotta give that solder a second to cool down. Excellent. So for good measure, I'm gonna put a little more flux on here and touch up all those pins with the soldering iron. That way we know every single one of them has a nice solid connection to the board. And there's less risk of them breaking it off again here. Let's get you guys up close, if you can see anything. There we go. All right. That guy isn't going anywhere. And just to double check, all of our pins are solid. Amazing. All right, let's see if all that work was in vain or if we've got this board all working again. We're actually going to use our test power supply. We're not going to use we're not going to use like a one in good condition. We're going to use one that I've cut up and beaten up in case anything catastrophically fails here. We don't want to lose any really good parts. I'm honestly going to give this like a 20 or 30% chance of working. That is the base, that is. I have no doubts about the connector here being replaced. We've done that enough times. But that amp chip, that one kicks my ass. Oh, before, I'm also going to test this with a bricked logic board first, just to make sure that there's no major catastrophic power failures here that take out my good logic board. We would not want that. But we've got power. Nothing blew up, so that's a good sign. Fingers crossed this works and we don't fry our logic board. Our good one, that is. Here we go. Oh, man. Oh! Do you guys hear it? Yeah! Oh, 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 oh! First try! Fuck yeah! Okay. Because that base chip blew up, I kind of want to replace the filtering capacitors. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're also going to replace that Schottky barrier diode on there to prevent no power issues. And then this board should be ready to go. I am not even kidding you. I am just as surprised as you are that that works. Wow. If that doesn't deserve a like and subscribe, I don't know what does. Okay, let's replace the filtering capacitors, let's replace the diode, and then we will retest the board, make sure everything is still good to go, and then we'll be all done for the day. So, back up close we go. Let's bring our focus to those nasty little caps there. Get those replaced. Oh man. That was good. I think I've gotten a decent process down for replacing that chip too. It's a lot more difficult than your standard QFN chip. Like this one right here, you've got access to all the pins around the sides to touch them up. But with this, you've got no access. There's too much around it. So you pretty much have to get it perfect the first try, or you pretty much have to try again. And it's almost impossible to tell if it's lined up or not too. They don't give you any markings on the board. I've been thinking of trying to like commission or make like a metal template that you sit on top of the amp board that only exposes where the chip sits, so that way you can just drop the chip down into the template through the template onto the board, and it'll hold it in place while you heat it and reflow it. Okay, I want to try this one more time. I want to record this, and I want to catch it. Okay, if you're nervous about reconnecting your ribbon cable when you get it back, just keep in mind when you're installing the cable, this is the unlocked position. This is how you want it. This is how you want it to be when you put the cable back in. And then when you're locking it down, just be gentle with it, but use your fingernail and reach in there and just gently push it down to lock it into place. Just like that. It doesn't take a whole lot of force. But that said, the solder and that we used on here, this should be significantly stronger than it was when it came from the factory. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Just be gentle with it. Let's get this diode replaced, and we'll be just about all done. Did that really jump back up there? Are you kidding me? Get out of here. Oh man, what a good repair day. What a great day. My birthday's tomorrow too. No, that diode is getting an eviction. No notice. Straight evicted. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. We shall cool the board off and then give it one last test. Actually, I want to clean off all this flux too. Generally, I don't clean any of the flux off on any of my repairs. But for people that send the board only, I do clean them up. Just cause, like, just to be totally frankly honest with you, like, nobody's pretty much ever going to see the inside of the HomePod again, so it doesn't really matter if you leave a little flux in there. And this specific stuff in particular isn't going to cause any damage if you don't clean it up. But if somebody takes the effort to take it apart and send just the board in, I do want to make it a little more presentable for them when they get it back. So let's grab some Q-tips. Oh, and congratulations, HTPC. This is the first amplifier that we have successfully, let alone even attempted, to replace this bass chip live on stream. Pretty much every time one of these shows up, I don't even bother. I just replace the amp. But I figure it was the last repair for today. We're doing good on time, and I wanted a challenge. Let's dry that off. Clean it off again. Thank you for the reminder, Martin. I gotta turn it back on in another second here anyways, but I'm sure it would have started whining at us any second now. Okay. Power supply. Ribbon cable. Power cable. Subwoofer. Multimeter. Logic board. Oh, that's the bricked one. Where's the good one? Here we go. And power. Let's see what we got. We've got about 1 to 2 millivolts of offset there. That is excellent. Got a new diode, new amp chip. Our bass is still working. Let's go ahead and play a song just to make sure. What shall we be struck with copyright today? Oh. Yeah, that sounds awful. I'm glad I tested it. So, there could be one of two things going on. The solder or the joints between the chip and the board are poor, which it kind of sounds like it, or whatever blew up that chip caused some more damage. So we're going to try to reflow that chip one more time and see if we can't get that bass sounding clean here. If we can't, then I'm sad to say, while we did get our bass back, we unfortunately could not fully fix it. But we made it this far, so we may as well try. So we're going to just heat this up. We're going to make sure we get plenty of flux around it. And then we're going to give it one more try. Could be the caps too, actually. You're right. We're going to reflow the chip and the caps just to be sure here. Okay, and then we've got a little bit of cleaning up to do. Looks like a little more solder squeezed out of the around the base chip there, so looks like we didn't have it pushed down all the way the first time. Let's go ahead and clean that up. Okay. Let's try that one more time. What do we got now? Show me the good stuff. Ooh, the suspense. So Siri sounds fine, but does the bass? Brothers and sisters. Oh, interesting. So it works fine at lower volumes, but it starts to crackle out at higher volumes. Oh. I wonder if it's just overdriving the subwoofer speaker. We might have to put this into an enclosure just to make sure. I can really crank it now. Yeah. The fact that it improved when we reflowed the chip is a good sign. That tells me that we may need to just try a few more times on the chip, maybe reflow it again and see if we can get a more solid connection. It's also possible that this replacement chip that I used, although I tested it, it might not be good enough, but we might need to drop in an OEM chip. But we are about out of time for today. So the good news is we were able to pretty much fix this. We just have to give it a little more love and attention here before it's in peak working order again. So I'm going to go ahead, HTPC, if you don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and take a little more time on this one, probably another day or so, just to figure out exactly what's going on here. If we can't fix it, then we will send you another working amplifier that you can use, and at the end of the day, you'll be bumping beats again in no time. For the rest of you guys, if you have any questions about any of the repairs that we've done here today, feel free to leave a comment down below or shoot me an email. Check out my website, nixfix.com, where I've got a bunch of information on HomePod repairs, including do-it-yourself info, steps to diagnose, repair, and the part numbers you need to do that, or my contact info if you'd rather hit me up and have it repaired here on the channel. In any case, I hope you guys all enjoyed.